And welcome back, everybody. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, and as always, Bob Chapman is on with us this evening's Tuesday edition. Bob, welcome to the show. Always love having you here. Missed you last week.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm glad you took last week off because it was a good thing to do.
And it was, and I also understand, as much radio as you do, it's a difficult situation sometimes, and I understand the amount of hours you put in. So I really want to thank you for doing this show with me. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I really do.
Well, I thank you very much, and I enjoy doing it. And we're still doing 30, 40 hours a week. It's working out pretty good. The only thing that killed me are the night ones, 10 to 11. I got to get up at 4, so it's hard for me. But otherwise, I hang in there. I get my writing done. We get our research arranged, so everything's working okay. But I guess you'll have to literally put me in the category of an elderly Superman.
Definitely, and I would say young. You are super young because there's very few people who do what you do, and you are so dedicated to what you do. That's why I appreciate you very, very much. Well, Bob, the very first thing I wanted to ask about you is this Muammar Gaddafi situation. Is this the elite ruling class trying to usurp Libya now, trying to place their own shill in order to basically maybe start World War III here and drag Iran into this whole situation? What's your thoughts on that?
No, I think that's a good possibility. And then you have the other factors, and there's one that hasn't been discussed at all. All right, the factors are 4 of the biggest water aquifers in the world. And the United States and the British, they wanted to get a hold of them. The largest inventory of oil, the second largest inventory of oil in the Middle East, probably the finest oil in the world, quality-wise, $100 billion in their sovereign fund, and these people wanted to loot that. They want to steal it all, turn it, convert it to their own use. But there's one last thing here, and I was remiss in not bringing this out before. I should have. I guess it was second nature, but I should have talked about it. And that is that what Mr. Gaddafi was doing was he was paying off Western leaders to keep Western countries from coming in and giving him the boot out. And he paid them to do that. Tony Blair, George Bush, Bill Clinton, and that whole gang from the Illuminati. And, he knew the score, big time. And I guess it was with the accedance of Western nations for many, many years that he survived. And he just cut deals like with Arm& Hammer on their oil. I mean, nobody ever got any oil out of there before that. And Arm& Hammer, as we found out, who was the president of Occidental Petroleum, when the wall came down between the Soviet Union and the rest of the world, the Soviets came right out and said that Arm& Hammer was a spy for the Russian government from 1923 onward, as was his father. So these are the kind of things that people don't talk about. And so he was paying everybody off to stay in power. And they decided that when he came out and said, look, we want an African golden dinar, and he wouldn't play ball with the, I forget the name of that group, Pan-African group. I can't think of it right now. But anyway, he said no to that. And that was part of the agenda of the Illuminists as laid out in the New American Century in their move to take over everything in the Middle East. And then, of course, hand it off to Israel. And so uh, he was playing high power politics. Now, why did they kill him? They wanted to shut him up. Now, I think they did a stupid thing. They would have been better off trying him and all of that other gobbledygook that they go through in order to get press mileage, we'll call it. And but maybe they figured they just wanted to shut the thing down. But he was unceremoniously executed, and so was the son. And I guess last night they turned over the bodies to their family, and they're going to bury them. Rather an ignoble end to a long reign.
So, what do you think's going to happen now that he's been unthroned and killed? I mean, who do you think most likely is going to be put in his place in order to, I don't know, enclose the Middle East? Because it looks like to me, Bob, they are trying to start World War III because they know that this system is collapsing, that they created, that they wanted to collapse, so they bring in their new world order. So I'm just thinking, okay, it's what shill are they going to put in place in order to steal their oil, steal that aquifer?
I don't know who it is, but I do know one thing. He will be bought and paid for by MI6 and the CIA. They're already using great large maneuvering positions in the country already. And what most people don't know, because it wasn't reported, the air forces of NATO, they just absolutely kicked the crap out of that country. I mean, they just blew everything that looked like it might be helpful to Gaddafi up, including lots of innocent people. And you know, the people in all those military organizations, their air forces particularly, they know what's going on. I mean, how can these airmen go in and bomb the way that they did in an undeclared war that was being run by MI6 and the CIA? I don't get it. What are these people turned into monsters?
Well, what I don't get is how they can do something so unconstitutional and following these illegal and fictitious orders coming from above. And I'm not talking about the presidency either. Uh, but what the bottom line is that I think we do have a lot of good military people who are now speaking up and saying this is illegal, this is unconstitutional, we shouldn't be doing this. But we just haven't seen it come out right out in the open.
It will. And I'll tell you how I know that. I do a show. I've done it for, I think, for 8 years. It's number one on Blog Talk. And it's, like 5 or 6 times bigger audience-wise than anything else on Blog Talk's 300-odd programs that they have on. And the man who runs the Marine Disquisition, what it's called, it's pointed to its active and retired military people throughout the world. And it's not only in the U.S. militaries, but it's in others as well. It's been extremely effective in informing all of these people worldwide in the military just what's going on behind the scenes. And with that said, Drew Rains, who runs a program, he's a retired officer in the Marine Corps, and he was in Ukraine, and the U.S. government froze his bank account in the United States, so he couldn't get funds from his own bank account to be able to operate on a month or two vacation over there. And so he went to the authorities, the U.S. consulate, and said, look, I got a problem. They said, yeah, we know about it. We caused it. We don't like your radio programs. If you keep it up, we're going to take away your Social Security, your VA benefits, and any pensions you've got. I would
Unbelievable.
say that's hardball, wouldn't you?
I would say that's extreme hardball. And believe me, I've listened to you on Drew's show, and I'm very well aware of what he's doing, and bless him for what he is doing. And again, people like you, Bob, because you've got the inside information. You know exactly what these monsters, these socio and psychopathic uh, degenerates have created. And they try and take people apart who are trying to make a difference, who are speaking out and saying, we've had enough of this garbage and things have got to change. And like these TSA agents now that they put them, they've got them at bus stops, they've got them at football games, they've got them at the big arena sports events. I mean, don't people realize that this is Nazi Germany all over again, and they're just accepting it at will? It's disgusting.
Yeah, but they don't understand. They know nothing about history. Nothing. And it's a travesty. It's a shame. And that's why people should be listening to programs like this so they can get the truth. Like, as I pointed out just now, the military gets the truth. I mean, let me put it this way. We have a number of people who are in charge and have been before in charge of intelligence operations in different countries subscribing to my publication. We've got Chavez and in Venezuela, and the very famous Fidel Castro, who are subscribers. And it's the most plagiarized publication in the world. I mean, we had a fellow come on from the State Department, and this was via email.
And this is our
And
State
he's not going
Department.
to call from the what?
I said this is our State Department you're talking about.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
our State Department. He came on, and he said the reason I came on, that the man that you mentioned, who used to be in counterintelligence with you, who worked for the State Department after that for years and years, used to be my boss. And he says, everything that you're talking about is the truth. Every embassy, every consulate, everybody who wants it inside the Beltway has my publication the minute that it's published. Now, what are we talking about? Minions?
Right.
And so that's what's going on out there. It's real important that people listen to programs like this and make sure they tell other people about them.
Well,
I don't know that they'll ever become old hat, and I'll tell you why. Sooner or later, they're going to try to take us all down. And if they can't do that, they're going to start killing us. And believe me, I want to tell you, they do that all the time.
yeah.
And I've often contemplated why they haven't taken me down. They threatened me a number of times over the years, over a long span since 1967. But they never really moved against me. And I think the reason why is that they believe I'm one of them. And sooner or later, I'll come to my senses. I think that's the way they justify it. But be as it may, they will move against me sooner or later. And they will find me. And they will try to liquidate me.
Well, Bob, I also think this, though, that you are so much in the public's eye now that if anything were to happen to you, it would be so public and there would be such an outrage that there would be literal hell to pay at that point. Just like yourself.
Well, I hope you're right, but I don't entertain that will be the case. If they want me down, I'll go down. They'll lose a lot of people, because we shoot back.
Well, that's
And
exactly it.
well, that may be, and especially living in a foreign country. I mean, how are they going to explain it? They say, why have they gotten this guy down out in the middle of nowhere? There all there are is monkeys and bananas out there.
That's a that's a good point. And the monkeys fight back too, by the way.
It's interesting that I've lived in 9 countries in the last 10 years. And I have to keep on switching. But it's an art form, and I don't have any problem with it. But I would say, perhaps with the exception of Cuba, and I've never been to Venezuela, uh, with the exception of Cuba. Uh, I don't think any of these countries understand what I'm doing. I mean, they might know I live in their country, but they don't know what I do. And I don't, go out and talk to people and tell them what I do. I just, hi, and be nice to them and that sort of thing, and vice versa. People are lovely all over the world, and so they wouldn't expect something like that to happen. And outside the United States, crossing borders is easy, and usually in Latin America, if you think there's going to be a problem, you just leave $100 bill inside your passport, and the guy smiles, and it slides
Right.
under the under the radar, so to speak. And that's the way it works.
Well, living outside the country, it's a lot more different because I know, like we talked about before, I've lived in Italy, and I mean, there's been such major changes worldwide, especially in Europe. I mean, we haven't seen the clampdowns in Europe like we've seen here. It's it it's an extraordinary measure this government has taken to try and lock down the people of this country to put them and keep them in complete fear. But I'm going to tell you something right now, Bob. The more they keep pushing, the more we're going to push back. And this is just the beginning of this Occupy Wall Street because now it's Occupy everything. I think it's 180 countries with 1,000 cities, and this is growing in leaps and bounds. Whether these people are protesting for whatever small reason, the overall objective I think is getting done here. And the bottom line is, I think they're finally becoming afraid that they realize that they cannot screw with us the way they have in the past, and things are changing drastically and at exhaustive and full fledged run right now. So if they're going to do anything, they would have to do it now, and it would have to be some sort of false flag attack to keep the other whatever 75, 80%, because it looks like it's growing so large, and it is the younger generation. But I'm also seeing the older generation stepping up and walking into this going, hey, we have had enough. Whether they think it's just Wall Street or whether they think that it's the banks or whatever. But Bob, I want you to hold it right there because we're coming up on a break. We've got about 4 minutes and then we'll come right back in. Everybody stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and we will be right back with the incredible Mr. Bob Chapman. Stick with us. And now we'll just go out. Let's see, it's 11:28, so we'll go back in at 11:32. Bob.
It's okay. I got plenty to do.
Uh, uh, Thank you for the. Want to thank you for the all the reports you've been sending in. I've tried to read them as much as I can.
Yeah, but look, what's more important is you get a link to me to put in the publication so everybody will know you're alive when you're on the air and so on and so forth. It's very important because my publication plus all the other things that go with it probably allow exposure monthly. It would have to be 30 to 50 million people worldwide. And you're going to see your audience grow. So what you want to do is make sure you get me that link so I can put it up so they'll go to your show.
Okay. I'll have
And
my.
I would like to thank you for changing the schedule for me because that time of night is a nightmare.
Oh, I can imagine. It's got
I
to
mean,
be a
I got to
killer
get up
for
at
you.
4, and then I got to force myself to go to sleep at 11. Let's see, I get you down for 11:26, 12:18, 1:22, and 2:05. And if you want more dates than that, all you have to do is tell me, and we'll verify them, so to speak.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. So we're doing today the 23rd. Then we got Saturday 11:26, 11. Then we got 12
Wait a
8,
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Yeah, 11:26. Go ahead.
11:26. Then I've got 12 18 11. Then I've got 1 22 12. and then I got 2, 5, 11. Okay, so am I right
Yeah,
on
but
that?
wait a minute. That has to be wrong,
Okay,
and that's my fault. Judy must have missed that. 20512.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, if you want to fill in other dates, just let me know.
I do.
And this time on 12 or 1 o'clock on Saturdays or Sundays, depending upon what I get set up, is a good time for me because that means I can play golf and get some damn exercise.
Right.
Like yesterday and today, I played, but yesterday I had two programs from 12 to 2, and the same today. I just got off of KFFN in Phoenix
Right.
with
My
Pat
mother was
Gormley, the
listening.
coin dealer.
Yeah, my mother was listening to you just before you came
Yeah,
on with me.
Sinclair knows a real good announcer, real good.
Yes, he is. I've got his number
And I
actually.
don't think Pat will ever go back on the air.
I hope he
I think it's
does.
going to be, I think it's going to be too much for him.
Yeah, I hope he does. His wife is lovely. I met with her last week when I went to purchase my coins, and a lovely, lovely woman, lovely family, good people, Bob.
Incidentally, I'm going to be going. I'm going to be on their what do you call it? Conference. I got maybe March or April,
Yeah,
and I'll do it by Skype.
that's what
I
she
can do
said.
that by Skype,
That's what she
and
said.
I'd like to be there, but I don't dare go into the United States.
I understand.
They'll kill me. I
Well,
mean, they'd be waiting at the border. I get a new passport. You don't want to know how I got it.
right.
And then I get the little cards to get across the border,
Okay, Bob. We're into the
besides the
break.
passport.
Okay, you ready? We're gonna go back in now.
Go ahead.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and you are listening to the incredible Bob Chapman. And we were just talking about the debacle with Muammar Gaddafi, how they plan to usurp it, to put in their little minion in order to take down the whole Middle East in order maybe to try and bring us into World War III. Uh, and I was talking actually to Bob about the TSAs, how we're being conditioned as Nazi Germany all over again. And Bob, I wanted you to finish up with that because I wanted to also talk about this college bubble. What a disgrace, a sham, a scam this has been uh, to take down the middle class and these kids with no real education.
Well, as on the file on the Gaddafi affair, we'll call it, is that they want to loot the country. They want to use the base of operations. Next, they'll go after Syria, and when they've done that, then they'll go after Iran. And that will probably be looked at as a third world war. What what Russia and China will do remains to be seen. I think they really want to suck them into it, and I think the Russians are well aware of that, and so aren't the Chinese. But the Chinese have much more domestic problems than Russia. You got 30 million people unemployed. You got a population of what? Uh, uh, I don't know. It's astronomical. I forget the figure. And you got a stock market that's been on its can for 3 years now. In fact, they took retirement money from the Chinese worker, and they used it to hold up the stock market, and it didn't work. It still went down. And it's really a very bad situation. They got whole cities they've built that nobody lives in, make work projects. And that's what command economies do. You'll start to see that as well as in the U.S. in time as well. But they're going to have their government overthrown if they don't have a war. So maybe a war would be good for them. And, they can lose maybe 100, 200 million people. I mean, they don't care.
Those numbers are
If you remember in
astronomical.
1948, after the Second World War, Mao Zedong liquidated 75 million Chinese. It was awful.
Yeah.
He said there was too many people, so we get rid of them. But anyway, that's where that thing is headed in that area, and that's why they're doing what they're doing.
Well, as you said and I have said, let them try it here because the American population is well armed, and I believe it was one of the Japanese commanders who's told the emperor at that time says we dare not attack the Americans on their homeland because they are armed.
I think that was Admiral Yamaguchi,
That's right.
and he met a sad end. He was in a not a combat plane. It was a regular plane that they take people from one place to another, and a bunch of P-47s caught up with them and took him out. And his plane went down, and he died. Uh, he was a very powerful. He was in charge of all of the loot the Japanese stole out of Asia, which goes back to 1922 to 1945. I mean, everything that wasn't nailed down, they took it.
And
And they
wasn't
killed
he
lots and lots of people needlessly.
right? And was it didn't he actually go to school here in the United States, if I'm not mistaken?
I can't remember. I know the only guy that was hung was Tojo, and he was the minister of war, so to speak. And they had to hang somebody, so they said, Tojo, it's, you've been picked. And, they were very fatalistic. They still are. And they said, okay, I'm dying for my country, and off he went. But they did say that. And I was going to say on the program, I didn't get to it yet, but you said it, and it's so true. And it is absolutely one of the most vital things in America that people have weapons and not be able to allow the government to take them away from them. I talked to a couple in Scotland just recently, and we talked about the riots in in England, and the woman said to me, we can't defend ourselves. I mean, all the bad guys, and the police got guns, and we got nothing. What are we going to do? Chase them with baseball bats?
Right.
So it bears out in totality what we say when we talk about having legal weapons in your home. Please have them. If you can afford to buy them, have an AR-15 or an AK-47, 1,000 rounds for every weapon, and 10 30-shot clips, and that will last you 4 to 5 minutes on semi-automatic in a firefight.
That's pretty much right,
So if you
Bob.
think you get 50 rounds, and that's going to save you, forget it. All
Well,
you're
you're
going to do
right.
is make somebody mad, and they're going to come and kill you.
You're right because my SKS, I have an SKS. I just bought a scope for it too. I've got over 1,500 rounds on that. On my Tokarev, my handgun, which basically is a rifle and a handgun, I've got over 1,000 rounds of that. I've got over 1,000 rounds of 9. I've got close to 1,000 rounds of 45 with lots of extra clips.
That's terrific. Well, everybody should have things like that. And because even if you never use them, people buy life insurance. They also buy health insurance and other kinds. So a gun is an insurance that if somebody comes and tries to do something untoward towards you, you can say, I'm not going to do that, and you shoot back. Maybe you're going to die. Is it better to die than live in a concentration camp? Because that's where all this is headed. So please, if you can afford it, get weapons. Anybody wants to know what to buy, email me. I'll tell you. I'm a weapons expert.
That's right.
Have been for many years.
You just remind me of something,
I
Bob.
can give you the muzzle velocity of every rifle in the world. What's that?
I said you just reminded me of something. I was watching not too long ago. What was it? The movie The Pianist, and that was all about World War II, and now the pianist was trying to escape. And there was one particular scene where all these Jews were laying down, face down in the street, and there were only a couple of I think they were SS officers, just officers, and they were laying down the street with their hands, over their head, and they were just walking up to them, bang, just shooting them in the head. My whole thought is, There's only a few of them, and there's many of you. Why not get up and do something about it? Go after them, take them down. I mean, well, I can understand why anybody would just lay down and take it.
And I think in the case of the Jewish people and others who were subject to that, they just never really thought that any human being would ever do that to another human being. And I got news for you. That's proof, not only in Germany, but also in Soviet Russia. It was horrible.
Yeah, I think 22
And we're
million died.
talking about millions and millions of people.
Yeah, I
So
just said
be
that.
prepared. Get your dehydrated and freeze-dried foods in. Make sure you got a water filter. My family is loaded, and you should be too. And even if you never use any of it, I mean, just think of the satisfaction of knowing that if you lose your job and you have no income, at least you can eat. And if somebody comes and wants to take you away, well, rather than be taken away, you shoot them.
Well, I'll tell you, that's the way I'll go down because no one's ever going to put their hands on me trying to take me into some camp. That'll just never happen. No way, no how. And I can tell you this as the day is long, Bob. That will never, ever happen to me or my family, because I used to believe in this country and what it was founded on until it was usurped by these delinquent, degenerate sociopaths. And another thing I wanted to get into here real quick. I know we only got about about 10, 11 minutes here. I wanted to get into this college debt bubble because no one's really bringing this up. But these kids have been decimated and destroyed. There's no way they can default on these loans, and they're arresting them for not paying their college tuition back or their loan back, Bob. I've watched a video of they broke into somebody's house, and it was the wrong house, by the way, because he was delinquent on his student loan payment.
That's right. And that's going to continue, and it's probably going to get worse. And they'll probably have them force them to work for TSA or Homeland Security. Half the people who work in it are criminals. It's unbelievable. But that's what the Germans and the Russians did. They quickly took criminals into their ranks because they knew that these people would do anything and that they were expendable, easily expendable. In fact, it's a way of capturing population. But anyway, you're right, and they didn't get the education that they paid for. The educational process is dreadful. I know I went to university. I know what to expect. I talk to people with PhDs. They don't know they're from a hole in the ground. Unbelievable.
Well,
It's incredible.
yeah, they've lowered the standard of education so these people could pass, so that they can have a certificate hanging on a wall that's worthless and meaningless.
I started writing in 1967 about that. Because education always has been something close to my heart uh, because I realize how important it is. And, I was a gifted child, and, I went through 4 years of Latin and 2 years of French in high school. Algebra 1 and 2, geometry, trigonometry, all of which I hated. And so I knew what you had to know, classical education, for those going to university. And what happened? What happened was that even in those olden days, in the 1950s, they were allowing people to go to university, and out of each freshman class, the figures vary, about 45% are not there after the freshman year, which means to me probably most of those people should have never been there in the first place. Now, there are extemporaneous problems such as money, family responsibility, and things like that. But most of them, half of them shouldn't be there. Period. And so starting with that, I had economics uh, for 2 years when I first went to school. I went twice to college because the government in the olden days, they used to draft people, selective service. And I could have get out of it, but no, I wanted to see the world. But anyway, I had the same professor twice. The first time, and I had a run-and gun battle with this guy. And the only reason he didn't throw me out of university, because I was really got to this guy, was I had two uncles who were professors at the university, so they weren't about to throw me out. The first year I had him, he taught that lobbying was great and spent a whole semester on it, virtually. I come back, just the opposite. I gave him his own notes. I said, this is what you said last time. What about this time? What are you talking about? He said, I want to talk to you.
Ha! Ha!
Anyway, it ended badly for him. And and then I wrote in sociology, I wrote a paper on legalized prostitution. And I thought that they were going to go absolutely crazy at the university. I mean, it's the 1950s. And, the benefits and the negatives and all of this stuff. But anyway, I've always been outspoken.
Well, Bob, I think that's fantastic. And you know what? Throwing it in your professor's face the way you did just proves one point, that the man was just another, you know, talking head who's just looking for a paycheck and not really standing behind his own, his own beliefs or just part of the system, so to speak.
Well, you're right. It's professional prostitution. And you get it in every industry. I mean, look at the position the policemen are in. They want to do their job and as easily as they can. And at the same time, the federal government's trying to turn them into an SS. Now, if they argue with their bosses and the government, they fire them.
Right.
And these guys don't want to lose their job, 15, 20 years in service. And look how they're compromised. They're terrible. They don't deserve that. And then, if there is a situation in the future where they're told to go out and collect everybody with hazel eyes, and they have to go out and do that, they're probably going to run into the line of fire, and they're probably going to get killed.
Well,
There's only 500,000 policemen in the country,
I know.
and there's 200 million people with guns. You got to be kidding me.
Well, I want to know when Americans became so spineless and so yellow to succumb to these meaningless and empty threats from these thugs. That's what I want to know. You go back 50 years ago, this would have never happened. There is no way that this would have happened what's happening today, Bob.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, and it's the changing of character. It's the exception of corruption and immorality. Anything goes, and that's the bottom of it. I mean, these people don't care about anything anymore.
I mean, it looks
It's
like
not only here; it's all over the world, mind you. I mean, there's differing degrees, but that's the way it is.
right. I mean, look at
And
Greece.
all these things happen deliberately.
You're right. Deliberately, it's deliberately done. I mean, look at Greece. I've read some article, I think it was yesterday, about what's the suicide rate now in Greece has jumped up tremendously because of what these people are being put through. Instead of fighting their government, they're offing themselves. I mean, that's pretty spineless.
It certainly is. And that's been the culmination of the things that we've talked about this morning, and where it is all led to. Uh, I we're reaching an apex of missing the boat. And I tell you, people had better stand up on their hind legs and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to take this anymore. Because there's going to come a time, the next few years, that unemployment's going to be higher, no jobs, no house, um, no uh, automobiles. I mean, the, I wrote an article 8 years ago. I said the government wants to nationalize housing. And next after that will be the banks. And the reason why is they control everybody's life. And if you get high unemployment, they say, Mr. Jones, you live in Dallas, and we got a great job for you in Philadelphia, and we got a great job for your wife in San Francisco, and the kids are going to school outside of Chicago. And you'll all get together every year for 3 weeks at Lake Placid or someplace. And that's how you're going to live for the rest of your life. And then after that, they tell you who can get married, to whom, and who can breed. And when children are 4 or 5 years old, they're going to be told what course of study they're going to take and what they're going to be when they grow up. That's where this is all headed. These people are nutcases.
They're all nutcases, every last one of them. It sounds like they're trying to compartmentalize the individual family group.
That's right. And who can have children and how many they can have, and they probably will test tube the babies anyway, just using sperm, and so the women don't have to go through having childbirth. I mean, it's all sorts of sick things going on out there. And these people behind them all have been for a century. And that's why we got to get rid of the Fred for openers. And there's a lot of work to do after that. And I'm hoping I can live to be about 125 so I can participate.
Well, my father says
And
he's going to live to 105.
well, he's only 86.
Yeah, 80, 80. Well, he's 84 and he calls himself 85.
Oh, I see. Well, he's 10 years older than me.
Right. Well, you
But anyway,
coincidentally, yeah. No, I was just going to say coincidentally, you're just a couple of years older than my mother, and she's a spitfire herself, and she's a go person, and you remind me a lot of her, Bob, or vice versa.
well, I guess it's in our genetics. Half of my family came from Ireland, the other half came from Italy. And, there were immigrants coming over by the thousands to the United States. Both families, who didn't know each other, came over in 1882, one from a boat on leaving Genoa and the other one from Dublin. And they obviously got to Boston and said, oh, I love you, and they got married.
Right.
And that's how I got here.
I'll tell you this, Bob. I would say, other than the very smart people like yourself, who who understand exactly what's going on because you made it a priority in your life to be educated and really educate yourself. The backbone of this country, okay, was based on individual inventions and idealisms that created the infrastructure of this country, not going to college, getting a worthless degree in, oh, I don't know, um, business education or management or any of this nonsense that they've put forth upon all these kids, and they're all worthless. They're worthless degrees, and now we're starting to see the events unfold. And I say to these kids, you know what? Be independent, get smart, educate yourself, and build your own future, not based on a job that you're going to get with some uh, multinational corporation that you are expendable at any moment.
An organizational zombie.
Good word. Very good word. But Bob, we're
Well,
almost
there
out
was
of.
a great book, The Organization Man. I don't know if you might be too young to remember that.
No, I don't know it. I'm 45 years old, Bob. But when I woke up with a vengeance. Trust me. But
Well,
go ahead, continue.
no, we put more in each issue of the International Forecaster than any publication that I know of for the cost. Publishing twice a week, and the cost is like $159.95 a year. Comparative publications cost anywhere between $300 and $3,000 a year. I mean, this is a steal.
Outright.
You just put it in, the way it's supposed to be, and all the truth. And these people get an unbelievable education, and it prepares them for what's coming. And it's very, very important to be prepared, even if you can't afford to put in food and water filters and weapons and gold and silver coins and shares, just to know what you're supposed to do.
It's priceless.
I mean, that's a giant step upward.
Big time. Big. And Bob, we got like a couple minutes here. Go ahead and give out all your information to the audience so they know they can get your publication and your website.
Well, the International Forecaster is about business, finance, economic, social, and political issues all over the world, published on Wednesday and Saturdays by email, usually runs 35 or 40 pages each time. We have a hard copy that goes out twice a month for those who are not on the Internet, and everything that you need to know each week is in that publication. You can get a free copy by going to theinternationalforecaster.com, the International, Forecaster.com. You'd also go to www.intforecaster.com, intforecaster.com.
Perfect.
For those of you who would like to ask a question, those of you who would like to get a copy, or those of you who would like to get a copy of our latest recommendation on gold and silver shares, email me, Bob, at intforecaster.com, Bob at intforecaster.com. And for those of you who'd like to call toll free, that number is 877-479-8178. That's 877-479-8178. And they're offering a free one-year subscription there. And for those of you who want to be a subscriber, you should go there because the dealer that they're offering is terrific.
And Bob, I want to thank you so much as always being on this program on giving up your Tuesday evenings as you do. I want to thank you again, and I will email you, and I'll get that link to you. Okay, I promise, Bob, and I will see you hopefully next Tuesday. You have yourself a wonderful evening, and God bless you, Bob.
Thank you, and thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.
Good night, Bob.